There's an interesting disagreement between Aki Hayakawa and Makima very early on in Chainsaw Man, where Makima sees a lot of potential in Denji's ability to work for public safety, but Aki Hayakawa has his doubts. And I think that this disagreement is actually key to understanding Makima's relationship with Denji, and in particular, all of the erotic stuff that goes on between them. But before I get to that point about Makima, I need to tell you a little bit about what Aki's initial problem with Denji is, because that's going to be some important context. The problem with Denji, at least as Aki sees it, is that he doesn't have any real convictions. He's not really fighting for any meaningful goal or noble ideal. He's just a punk who's looking for some very simple pleasures out of life. And that's not good enough for public safety. Because public safety involves brutal, dangerous work in which you can definitely expect to die young. And Aki believes that you really need some lofty convictions or noble ideals if you're gonna find the strength of will to stick to your guns in that line of work. Or else you're just gonna fold or compromise the mission. Because who's really gonna risk their life day after day just for the sake of a bath and a warm meal and things like that? The answer is probably no one, and yet that's all Denji is really fighting for when he joins public safety. And that's why Aki initially has doubts that Denji is really cut out for hunting devils with public safety. And the interesting thing about Aki is that even though he does sort of underestimate Denji, there's also a way in which Aki is kind of spot on in the problems that he identifies with him. Aki is totally right that Denji's commitment to public safety is extremely fragile, and Aki is also right about the reason why it's so fragile. Denji is only in it to live some version of the good life as his reward. And if being with public safety is not as pleasant as he originally thought it might be, he's gonna leave. And there are a number of crisis points where Denji comes really close to leaving public safety. And some of these crisis points happen in parts of the manga that have not yet been animated. But the first one, which I want to talk about, happens in episode 5. What happens in episode 5 is that Denji finally secures a reward that he went through hell to acquire and that he had been dreaming about for a very long time. He killed the Bat Devil, he fought the Leech Devil, he lost an arm, he got impaled, his right eye popped out, and he almost got eaten. But Denji was nevertheless happy to go through all of this suffering, because Power had made a promise to him that he could get to second base with her if he succeeded in killing these devils. And that was Denji's reward. And this was a moment that Denji had been dreaming about for years. In some ways, this is one of his greatest dreams. But once he actually received his reward, he experienced a kind of life-shattering realization that getting to second base with Power was not that great. And it most certainly was not worth all of the pain and suffering that he endured in his fight with the Bat and Leech Devils. Which means as far as Denji was concerned, he kind of got ripped off in the entire adventure. And this realization produced a real moment of crisis for Denji. And indeed, it was exactly the kind of crisis that Aki Hayakawa was talking about earlier, when he tried to explain to Makima the reason why he thinks that Denji isn't really cut out for public safety. Denji was suddenly realizing that working for public safety might not actually be worth it. It may be that public safety can make his greatest dream come true, but if having your dreams come true is ultimately not that great, what is the point of working for public safety at all? And you know, I think that there's a real possibility that Denji was about to abandon the agency altogether, but luckily, there was one person who understood his crisis better than even Aki Hayakawa could, and that person was Makima. Makima understands exactly how fragile Denji's commitment to public safety really is, and when she learned of Denji's crisis, that getting to second base with Power was not as amazing as he thought it would be, Makima immediately went into damage control. She knew that she had to give Denji a new and more powerful dream that could speak to his very basic urges, while at the same time giving some extra security to public safety's hold over Denji's will. And this is the reason why Makima promises to sleep with Denji in episode 5. Because Makima makes this promise when Denji confesses to her that he was disappointed and even traumatized by his recent experience with Power. Makima's immediate response is to tell Denji not to worry, because the thing he didn't realize is that love is an art, and you have to know what you're doing if you want the experience to be as good as you have always dreamed. And Makima promises that as a matter of fact, she herself knows exactly what she is doing, for Makima is an expert in the art of love. And she is even happy to teach Denji everything she knows, if Denji will only do one thing for her first. Denji needs to kill the Gun Devil for public safety, and in exchange, Makima will make all of his dreams come true. Such was Makima's promise to Denji. But the thing that's so crazy about it, in my opinion anyway, is that this seductive promise that Makima makes to Denji has a very cold and calculated rationality behind it. Makima is simply solving a problem that Aki Hayakawa had already recognized, which we discussed a little bit earlier. Namely, that Denji's commitment to public safety is extremely fragile, because Denji's dreams are ultimately not that satisfying when they come true. He doesn't have any noble or lofty ideals that can make Makima and public safety feel sure of his loyalty to them. And Makima was able to see that this loyalty was in crisis after Denji got to second base with power. And her solution to this problem was not only to seduce Denji, it was not only to dangle her own love on a stick in front of him, but it was also to make Denji salivate over Makima with such obsessive intensity that she can be confident that Denji's loyalty will never waver from her designs. And the key behind this strategy is to give Denji a dream that is not only powerful, but which Makima can be sure will never come true. At least not as long as Denji has work to do for public safety. For Makima will not sleep with Denji until he has finally delivered the goods and defeated the Gun Devil, who is of course the greatest foe of them all. And so Makima's solution to the problem that Aki identified with Denji is to give Denji a dream that is powerful precisely because it is ultimately unrealizable.